Thanks for joining me today. In about 20 years, people will look back and say, where were you during the digital gold rush? And if you recognized it and you did something about it, you'll be rich. And if you recognized it and talked about it, you'll have good stories. And there'll be a lot of people that didn't recognize it, and they'll be wherever they are. And I'm going to spend my time this morning describing it to you, and hopefully you'll be one of the ones that get rich. So let's start. My clicker, okay. The investor's dilemma. Investors have a simple dilemma. How do you make money? And what does it mean to make money? Well, how do I outperform the cost of capital? If we look at the performance of a bunch of assets, and this is most assets over the last 14 years, what you can see is that, you know, investing in a bunch of things don't even beat the CPI, but there are a number of things that will beat the CPI. I mean, your typical diversified portfolio, your stocks, your real estate, et cetera. But the question is, what's the real benchmark for an investor? And I don't think it's the CPI. The CPI is a very synthetic metric, which is cherry-picked by a bunch of government-paid economists in order to be the lowest possible measure of inflation. If things get too expensive, they throw it out of the CPI. A much better measure would be the monetary inflation rate, or the expansion of the M2 money supply. And it turns out that the expansion of the money supply very, very closely tracks the performance of the S&P index over 100 years. And when you think about it like that, what you realize is that when you invest your money in the S&P index, you're not making money. You're just not losing money. If you were rich 100 years ago and you held a diversified portfolio of stocks, you're still rich. If you bought a bunch of currency or bonds, you're poor. And you can see here over the past 4 years, the S&P or the monetary inflation rate looks like about 13%. And not many things beat that inflation rate. It's very, very difficult. In fact, if you're beating that hurdle, you probably beat it with big tech. You beat it with Apple and Amazon and Google and Facebook, because the best idea in the 21st century has been buy a big tech digital monopoly like a Meta or a Microsoft, somebody that's that everybody needs, nobody can stop. And if you bought it before people understood it, you're probably doing okay. And even after they understood it, you're probably okay. But diversification generally is selling the winner to buy the losers. If you diversified out of Amazon, you lost. If you diversified out of Apple, you lost. If you diversified out of Microsoft into any of the 100,000 other business software companies, you lost. And why is that? Because in the modern era, if you can establish a digital network which goes to 1 billion people, it's got such a crushing economic advantage that it's unlikely that anybody else is going to be able to catch up with it. And Microsoft is proving that today, so many years after it was founded. Now, the question is, what's the solution? Is Bitcoin the solution? Well, the last 4 years, Bitcoin's performance is 46%. It's totally crushing every other asset class and every other idea. And it's definitely beating the rate of monetary inflation. This is a chart put up by Bitwise yesterday. This is the last 14 years of Bitcoin. As you can see, the top performing assets, the top of the chart, Bitcoin is winning the investor Super Bowl 11 out of the last 14 years. If you're paying attention, you got to wonder, like, why is it winning? And is this a gimmick? Now, the advocates of Bitcoin, such as myself, who wear orange ties, we think that Bitcoin is the first perfect money. We think Bitcoin is paradigm shift. We think Bitcoin is the singularity where science collides with economics. We think you have to rethink economics. You have to rethink capital. You have to rethink money. You have to rethink business. You have to rethink corporate finance. That's what we think. And that's why we're winning. We think there's a fundamental technology shift here. There's a fundamental paradigm shift here. And we think we're going to keep winning. We think Bitcoin is digital gold. We think it has all of the virtues of sound money, none of the vices of physical gold, which was that barbaric relic. There's a lot of problems with gold. We think that Satoshi engineered out all of the problems and just kept the good stuff. That's what we think. What do the skeptics think? Skeptics of Bitcoin think it's too good to be true. It's money for criminals. There's no use case. It's too volatile. It's backed by nothing. The government's going to ban it. It's going to be obsolesced by the next yo-yo coin. or it's going to be hacked. And we hear this over and over and over and over again. And if you ignored something that's won 11 of the last 14 years, either you didn't know about it, or maybe you thought one of these concerns was enough to keep you out of the asset. In my experience, everyone is against Bitcoin before they're for Bitcoin, including me. In my journey from skeptic to believer, this is my public utterance on December 18th, 2013. Bitcoin's days are numbered. It's just a matter of time before it suffers the same fate as online gambling. Government's going to ban it. This is what by the way, that's what I thought when Bitcoin was about $100 a share, or $100 a Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was $10,000 a Bitcoin, 100x later, this is what I thought. Oh my God, I have seen the light. Bitcoin is going to change the world. It's unstoppable. It's growing exponentially smarter, faster, and stronger. Now, this is the Bitcoin journey. And everybody goes through this journey. You're born a denier. It's tulip bulbs. It's a scam. This is the Peter Schiff. You're born a Peter Schiff. Maybe you stay a Peter Schiff. 1 hour is enough to be a skeptic. After 1 hour, you've learned just enough to hurt yourself. In 10 hours, you think, well, maybe it's an asset. I think I'll trade it. I'm going to buy it cheap and sell it when it's expensive. And then I'm going to buy it back cheap, and I'm just going to arbitrage something this way and that way. After 100 hours of study, of thinking about it, you become an investor. This is a digital monetary network. This is like Google for money. This is Facebook for money. Facebook for rich people. You know, Rupert Murdoch never brought 100 million friends to Facebook. When Rupert Murdoch buys into Bitcoin, the billionaire brings billions with them, right? The trading idea is not that complicated, and the investor idea is it's the next big tech network. It's a digital monopoly for money. After about 1,000 hours, you become a maximalist. And a maximalist this is an ethical imperative. The world's a better place with this, right? The money's broken. The world is broken. Billions of people are suffering. Fix the money, fix the world. That is the Bitcoin journey. Now, depression. It's 100 hours to an investor. I only have 41 minutes left. Welcome to the 1 hour Bitcoin investor crash course. I am going to try to get you to investor level by the time I'm done. But first, we require a return to first principles. This is my alma mater, MIT. That's the Great Court. All around the molding of the Great Court are all the great scientists, you know, Newton and Curie and Maxwell and Darwin. And they're trying to tell you that certain people had ideas that changed the world. You might want to study them. So let's start with some basic principles. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin represents the digital transformation of energy. Apple's digitally transforming photos, and Google's digitally transforming books. You know, and Amazon digitally transformed the storefront, and NVIDIA is working to digitally transform intelligence. But what does it mean to digitally transform energy? The human civilization is built on energy. We're here because of energy. The fact that humans figured out how to capture, create, channel energy, that's what makes us what we are. And the first big energy paradigm shift or big energy revolution was fire. We basically extracted energy from matter and we turned it into heat and light. And without that, we're no better than the apes. The next big energy transformation is water, which is really capturing the energy in gravity via the fluid of water. And that discovery of how you extract energy from water flowing downhill and turn it into mechanical energy, it's what makes mills. We'll give that to the Romans and the Greeks. James Watt figured out how to put energy into a factory without a water supply. Portable energy. The significance of the steam engine is you could put a factory in a city that didn't have a stream, didn't have a waterfall. It's a big deal. It made the Industrial Revolution possible. It elevated the British to a new level to dominate the world. John D. Rockefeller pioneered the manufacturing of Standard Oil. That meant chemical energy that you could transport, you could store, you could convert into mechanical, thermal, light, electrical energy, or a petroleum product, a lycra, polyester. You want to get rich, jump onto an energy revolution. Think about how much money was made here. So much money that there's still trillions of dollars worth of oil companies, all founded by this one man.